Hi, and welcome to my stitch guide. I am Terry Bay of Terry Bay Needlework Designs. If you have any questions about what you see today, you can send me an email either at the website or at the email that you see listed in front of you. Today I'm going to do a Greek cross. This is another Hardanger filling stitch. This is a stitch based on wrapped bars rather than woven ones, and we're going to do 4 sections, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now as I get going, I will talk to you about tension, how tight to pull it, how big to make it. In all honesty, a lot of this is up to the stitcher and is up to stitcher's preference, but I will tell you, once you finish the first one, your goal is to make the other 3 look as much like the first one as possible. So you're looking for consistency. You don't want to have one that's really big, one that's really little, one that's skinny, one that's fat. You want to have all 4. Yeah, I'll adjust the focus in just a minute. You want to have all 4 looking as much like each other as possible. There we go. So we're going to start out wrapping 2 of the 4 fabric threads. And this is just basic wrapping the threads all the way down. There was a video, the last one was about actually how to wrap and some of the technique things for wrapping. So if you've never wrapped a bar before, you should probably watch that video first. And boy, this one's not starting out very attractive, is it? There we go. So I'm going to wrap this first bar all the way down to the intersection here. And that is step 1. You get it down to the bottom, you get it as filled as you like. You want it to be completely stitched, but you don't want to put so many wraps on it that the bar starts to bow. So I'm going to say this is enough to make me happy. Okay? And if they try and lay on top of each other, just coax them down. Now I'm going to start the weaving part. I'm going to weave between the bar I've already wrapped and the first 2 fabric threads that are perpendicular to it. So these that form a 90-degree angle. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to weave these in a figure 8 pattern. I'm going to go under these 2 and over the bar I'm wrapped. Now yes, you are weaving directly over, and there goes my clock again, you're weaving directly over the area you've already wrapped. So now I've gone under the wrapped bar, over the fabric threads, under the fabric threads, over the wrapped bar. So this is just a figure 8, just back and forth. Now, I do like to pull mine in a little bit. Some people will pull these in really tight and squish them really close together. That's fine as long as you do all of them the same. Others like to leave them really big and just like in a perfect circle. When we get done, this is a quarter of the circle. That also is fine. Just make sure that all of yours look like each other once you're done. So this is your basic simple figure 8 weaving. Now I like to weave up to where the bars are 1/2 to 2/3 filled. Again, that is your preference. You can make them bigger or smaller as you please, but once again, you want all 4 to be the same when we're done. Yeah, at this point, they do like to double back on themselves. Just take your needle and make them go where you want them to go. You're bigger than the thread. All right, I'm going to say that's as much as I want here. That's as big as I want it to be. Okay, so now you see I've got a little bit of thread left here. I'm going to just wrap those two fabric threads the rest of the way to the end of the bar. And say that's as high as I want it to be. And there is, oh, I'll get it back where you can see it, 1/4 of your Greek cross. Now you're going to travel to this bar. Now normally I would either be using thread that matched my fabric, or I would have satin stitches right here to hide under. Since I don't have satin stitches, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here and grab a fabric thread just to train that thread out of my way and so it doesn't go straight across. Now, it's going to show because I'm using contrasting thread. If I were using white on white, you wouldn't see that little guy. And obviously, if I had satin stitches there, I would just travel under them and you still wouldn't see it. So now I'm going to repeat the process. I'm going to wrap this bar. And yes, there is a video on wrapped bars that shows you this process that I'm doing right now and gives you some tips for getting them to lay straight and being nice and even. Because we all know this is, I'm stitching this from a Hardanger point of view because this is where I use it the most. And in Hardanger, consistency is one of the biggest things about Hardanger is you just want it to be consistent. You want everything to look the second the same as the first. Now, I'm going to start weaving. Under, over, under, over. And that's just all it is, back and forth. With little bitty tugs for just a little bit of tension because I do like to pull mine in a bit. Do I count how many times I weave? Nope. Some do. If you want to, God bless you, keep doing it. Personally, I eyeball everything. Which sounds really odd saying, consistency is key. We want everything to be consistent. However, this is woven fabric, not a printed grid. Even though this is supposed to be 28 count, which is 28 threads to the inch, sorry, I use that system. I don't use meters, and sorry. Anyway, even though this is 28 threads to the inch, sometimes you'll get a piece of even weave that's a little more uneven, and you'll be 29 threads this way and 28 that way, which means the bars one way are going to be longer than the bars the other way. So it's not going to be visually consistent if it's mathematically consistent. Yeah. All right, so I finished weaving that, and now I've wrapped those two. Are they identical? Maybe not entirely, but they're pretty close. Pull my thread up out of the way. Again, normally I would hide it behind a satin stitch or use the same color thread. Now I'm going to do the next one. Sometimes if you can hear it when they start to roll on each other and I pull them down, you can actually hear a little bit of a snap when it pops into place. And then the weaving. Now, can you pull these tighter and make them skinnier if you want? Absolutely. Just make them all the same. There's third one partially done. You got the hang of this. If you don't want to stick around to see the full finished project, you know what you're doing, because the next one will be over here. And it will make it into a circle. I'll stitch these up as fast as I can. Now normally when I stitch Hardanger type projects, I will use linen for my fabric and pearl cotton for my thread. The traditional fabric is indeed even weave linen, because when this technique was developed in Norway, even weave linens were what they had on hand. That's what they made. They grew flax and they made linen. Now the threads would also have been linen, but to be honest, I don't enjoy working with linen threads, so I use the pearl cotton. I like the pearl cotton because it has a nice sheen to it, and it is also very readily available, so it's easy for people to get. Now, I mean, not if you're doing the beautiful specialty overdyes, but if you're using just basic white, this is a pearl 12. Most commonly in Hardanger, depending on your count of fabric, you will use 2 sizes of pearl cotton, either 5 and 8 or 8 and 12. Now the weaving. It's just a figure 8, back and forth, under, over, under, over. And people are always asking, well, how do you get them to look so perfect? Even though I find flaws, and you know, we all find flaws in our own work. There's one simple answer to that. Practice, practice, practice. The more you do, the better it gets. And then wrapping the last bit of the bar here. And there we go, Greek cross. Thank you for watching.